hear a number of different recordings and you will have to answer questions on what you hear. There will be time for you to read the instructions and questions, and you will have a chance to check your work. All the recordings will be played once only. The test is in 4 sections. At the end of the test, you will be given 10 minutes to transfer your answers to an answer sheet. Now turn to Section 1. Section 1. You will hear a telephone conversation between a travel company employee and a customer. First, you have some time to look at questions 1 to 5. You will see that there is an example which has been done for you. On this occasion only, the conversation relating to this will be played first.
Hello?
Hi, good morning. This is Talia from Parrot Bay Travel Agency. Is Robert Goddard there?
Yes, speaking.
The man says that he is Robert Goddard. So, Robert Goddard has been written in the space. Now we shall begin. You should answer the questions as you listen, because you will not hear the recording a second time. Listen carefully and answer questions 1 to 5.
Hello?
Hi, good morning. This is Talia from Parrot Bay Travel Agency. Is Robert Goddard there?
Yes, speaking.
I'm so sorry that I made such an early phone call, and I'm calling to ask a few questions about your most recent vacation. Could I have 5 minutes of your time?
Sure thing.
Great, thanks. Now, I see here that you visited Melbourne. Was this your first visit to Melbourne?
No, I have actually been there twice before.
I see. Now, what would you say was your favourite part about Melbourne?
Well, I did like seeing the exotic wildlife, and there are great sights to see, but I have to say I was most impressed by the amazing weather.
Yeah, the weather there is amazing. Which of the sites listed as part of our official tour did you see? And of those, which was your favourite?
First I saw the theatre, which was beautifully designed. It was not nearly as cool as the town hall, though. The building is a huge part of Melbourne's history. Definitely my favourite. I saw the aquarium too, but wasn't too impressed.
I see. Yes, people often have great reviews of Town Hall. Now, I would like to ask you about your dining experience. Did you enjoy the food there?
Absolutely, I loved it.
I'm glad to hear it. Could you tell me a little bit about what you most enjoyed about the food?
Being such an international city, I loved the variety. I could find any type of food I wanted, whether I wanted seafood, burgers, or anything else. You name it, and they had it.
Did you drive to Melbourne?
No, I flew. I thought about going by train, but in the interest of time, I decided to go by plane.
Right, I see.
Before you hear the rest of the conversation, you have some time to look at questions 6 to 10. Now listen and answer questions 6 to 10.
And would you mind telling me whether you are under 20, between the ages of 20 and 40, or older than 40?
It would be nice if I was still under 20. My vacation probably would have been quite different. Actually, though, I just turned 41 last week.
Oh, happy birthday. So, did you treat yourself and fly first class?
No way. I would love to have a budget that high. I'm more in the mid-range income level. I wasn't always, though. I spent much of my life in a low-income household.
I see. That answers my next question then, of income level. And what was the purpose of this visit?
I had to go there on business a lot before and decided I would go there for tourism this time.
I see. And what is your occupation?
I am mainly a computer programmer. I also write for a travel magazine on the side, which is why I visited Melbourne before, but it's not my main source of income.
I see. Wow, it sounds like you work a lot.
Yes, I am very busy, which is exactly why I took a nice week-long vacation to Melbourne.
I completely agree. Would you care to comment on your accommodation?
My hotel was a good value. Staying in the city can get really expensive, so it was nice to find such a good price for the location and quality. I'm glad I didn't end up in some cheap motel in the middle of nowhere.
I'm glad you didn't either. Well, thank you for taking part in our survey, and I'm glad you enjoyed your vacation.
No problem. Take care.
That is the end of section 1. You now have half a minute to check your answers. Section 2.
You will hear a conversation between a visa officer and an applicant. You have 30 seconds to read the questions first.
First, you have some time to look at questions 11 to 15. Now, listen carefully and answer questions 11 to 15.
Good morning, Visa Office. How can I help you?
Good morning. I'd like to apply for a visa to Australia, please.
Certainly, sir. I'll just get a form and then I'll need to take some details down. OK, here we go. Right. Can I have your name, please?
Yes, it's Akamura. Kelly Akamura.
How do you spell that, please?
K-E-double-L...
No, your family name, please.
Oh, sorry. It's O-K-A-M-U-R-A.
O-K-A-M-U-R-A. And your address?
Apartment 106, Kingston Street, Hawaii.
Kingston Street, Hawaii.
Yes, that's correct.
So you're an American?
Actually, I was born in Japan, but moved to Hawaii 6 years ago.
And can I have your age, please, Mr. Okamura?
I'm 32.
Are you married?
Yes, I am. My wife's Chinese.
And will your wife accompany you to Australia?
Yes, she will.
Before you hear the rest of the talk, you have some time to look at questions 16 to 20. Now listen and answer questions 16 to 20.
And will your wife accompany you to Australia?
Yes, she will. In fact, that's the reason we want to go. Her sister lives in Sydney.
And do you have any relatives living in Australia?
I used to have an uncle, but he died several years ago. Now there's only my sister-in-law and my wife's cousin.
So the purpose of your trip is to visit your wife's relatives, am I correct?
Well, not exactly. Mainly because I have my own trading company and I will be looking for business opportunities. Although I do want to do some travelling as well. You know, see some of the sights, that sort of thing. Although I don't intend to work in Australia.
And your wife? What will she be doing?
She'll be studying English. She wants a student visa.
And how long do you plan to stay?
About 1 year, I guess.
Well, I'm afraid a standard tourist visa is only valid for 30 days, although in your case, we can issue you with a business visa. Business visas last for 6 months, but you will be able to renew it. We can give your wife a 12-month visa though.
6 months is okay, so what do I need to do now?
Come along to the office any time during weekdays, but it must be office hours. We close at 5:30. And bring along 2 passport-size photos, and your passport, of course. Your wife will also need 2 photos, so that's 4 passport-size photos in total.
Okay, thank you for your help. Bye.
Bye.
That is the end of section 2. You now have half a minute to check your answers. Section 3.
You will hear a conversation between a welfare tutor of Student Union and 2 overseas students, Claudia and Bastito. They are talking about their life and study in Leeds University. Excuse me, is this Welfare Office of Student Union? We've wandered outside for a long time.
Yes, this is the welfare office.
We're students from Architecture faculty. Our Professor Thompson asked us to come.
Ah, yes. You must be Claudia and Bautisto. How are you? Your professor has mentioned your names through the telephone.
Fine, thank you.
As a welfare tutor, my job is interviewing overseas students and help. Therefore, your arrival doesn't mean you will tackle the problems alone. I have a lot of things to ask you. I want to know how you feel about life in Leeds University. Who will be first? Oh, Claudia, please.
OK.
This is the first semester, isn't it? Could you please tell us what is your first impression about the Leeds University?
Well, when I first came to this university, I was struck by how quiet it is here in the evening. The shops close so early. In the States, you can always buy what you want in the evening, but here, shops close before 5:30.
Yes, Leeds is supposed to be a quiet place. Where did you live when you first came here?
I went to the student hostel. It has a big lounge, recreation room, and most important, I don't have to cook for myself.
How is the food there? Do you like English food?
It is too bland, but healthy. You can't complain too much when you study abroad.
Yes, right. Oh dear. How were the local students?
To be frank, it is difficult for me to make many friends with British students. They're rather reserved and cold, not friendly. They seem to keep themselves.
Oh, it is a pity. Well, how about the academic courses in the architecture faculty?
Well, I'm doing my master's degree in this department.
All right. How are you finding your courses?
I really love my work. I did pretty well. I've enjoyed the courses, but the lecturers are very busy, and you hardly have contact with them.
Well, that doesn't sound good. What is your suggestion to improve your course?
Well, in my opinion, I think it is advisable to have regular meetings with lecturers. For example, once a week or a fortnight.
Regular meetings. That sounds great. Thank you, Claudia. We will come back to you in a minute, and then we will ask Batisto.
Before you hear the rest of the talk, you have some time to look at questions 26 to 30. Now listen and answer questions 26 to 30.
Batisto. Batisto, are you from the Philippines?
Manila, to be exact.
And how did you feel about the Leeds University when you first came here?
Interesting. It is an interesting place. The city is beautiful. Everywhere is green and lush. It is very cool in summer. I like summer here, but the winter is awful. The drizzle is terrible. Everywhere is cold and wet.
How about your accommodation? Do you like it?
Well, at first I lived with a family. They are friendly. They have twins. They are of the same age as me, and we all like soccer very much. However, it is noisy and difficult to study.
Oh, I see.
2 months ago, I moved out of the family and now live in the student dormitory with another 3 students. It is much cheaper. They are very friendly, and I like to live there.
And what about your courses? Do you like it?
I am doing my bachelor degree.
Apart from language difficulties, how do you find out about your studies?
Well, but
Yes, go on.
the main difficulty for me is that the computer centre closes so early, and it is always busy and crowded. Students are fussy about it. It is very difficult for me to practice my work.
You are not the only person in that position. But can you reserve the computer room?
No, we cannot. But it would help if we could reserve the computer time.
Yes, I'll look into that and see if we can improve the things over there. Now let's go back to Claudia.
That is the end of section 3. You now have half a minute to check your answers.
Now turn to Section 4. Section 4. You will hear a lecture on immunity and immunisation. First, you have some time to look at questions 31 to 40. Listen carefully and answer questions 31 to 40. Good afternoon, and thank you for your warm welcome. This will be the first talk in a series of 5 on health interventions, protection and prevention. Could I start by asking for a show of hands? How many of you have had a flu vaccination at the beginning of winter? I thought so. You young ones always think you're indestructible. Well, as you are no doubt aware, disease-spreading germs or pathogens are everywhere. On a daily basis, the human body has to ward off attacks by various harmful bacteria and viruses. A healthy body has a good defense system against many of these germs, but the defense only operates well against microorganisms that it has already encountered, in which case it is said to be immune. There are 2 ways in which humans acquire natural immunity. Actively, when a person has first suffered and then recovered from an illness, and passively, when ready-made protection is transferred into the body, for example, from the maternal blood via the umbilical cord to an unborn child, or through breast milk. Now, artificially acquired immunity can help the body to fight disease, so we can use active immunization as a preventative measure. This is when a person is vaccinated against an illness by injection or oral ingestion of a tiny amount of weakened or inactive germs, not enough to actually cause him or her to contract the illness, but sufficient for the body's defense system to recognize and respond to the threat by forming antibodies. Intervention using passive immunization, on the other hand, is a method of curing an illness after it is too late for prevention. It is less effective than active immunization and takes longer to work. It is used when the body has already been invaded by bacteria and the person is ill. In this case, there is no time for the body to make antibodies of its own, so proteins, usually taken from the blood of animals, are injected to equip the patient with the essential antibodies to combat the particular illness. Let's have a quick look at a bit of history. The discovery of vaccination to boost the body's immune system by making it sensitive to particular disease-causing bacteria was made by an 18th century English doctor called Edward Jenner. He noticed that survivors of smallpox, a common but extremely dangerous disease, never contracted the disease a second time. In other words, they were immune. He studied a similar disease in cows called cowpox and realized that people in contact with the infected cows became ill with symptoms resembling smallpox. However, this disease was quite mild by comparison, and those who contracted cowpox were then immune to smallpox. He conducted an experiment by injecting a child with a small amount of pus taken from a cowpox pustule. The child subsequently became ill, but soon recovered. Later, he injected the child with pus from a smallpox pustule, and the child did not get sick. He had developed immunity to the more dangerous disease. The antibodies produced to fight the cowpox bacteria had been able to fight off the smallpox bacteria. What are antibodies? Well, antibodies are made by white blood cells called B lymphocytes, and this is done in response to the presence of antigens, or other bacterial toxins, which have been released by the microorganisms, what we commonly refer to as germs, that have invaded the body. These Y-shaped antibodies, or you can think of them as antitoxins, may stop the toxins or repair the damage they have done by what is known as the antigen-antibody reaction, which takes place within the plasma of the blood. A correct antibody, for that disease, clings to a particular antigen in order to render it harmless. Large numbers of these pairs clump together to form a bigger unit. This is called agglutination and is able to be seen by the naked eye, which is very helpful for doctors and other specialists to determine which illnesses a patient is immune to. Inoculation or active vaccination can protect people from serious diseases. The vaccine may make a person feel unwell for a few days when the immune system starts to produce antibodies to match the introduced antigen. This is called a primary reaction. If that particular antigen should ever enter the body again later, a secondary reaction takes place. The body is then able to produce large numbers of corresponding antibodies within a short time, so the invading antigens are quickly wiped out, without the person suffering any harm from the disease. That is the end of section 4. You now have half a minute to check your answers.